Video to our monitor shows picture of a tragedy. Welcome back to CBS News 24/7. I'm Reed Cowan. So our teams continue to monitor multiple wildfires raging out of control in Southern California. They are driven by some major winds. In fact, we just learned the death toll is at 2 in the Eaton fire. That death toll expected to only climb in the coming hours. In fact, it is so bad that we don't really have a full count of the homes that have been burned or destroyed. But at this hour, the number stands at 1,000 structures. So they just don't know how many are businesses, how many are homes. But we do know this: thousands of Californians forced to leave with just the clothing on their backs. Now let's talk about the Palisades fires, just one of 4 wildfires raging in Los Angeles County. At least 70,000 people evacuated. So picture the number of seats in your average university football stadium, right? Like about 30,000. Double that and add 10,000 seats to that. That gives you an idea of the enormity of the people who are on the run right now, trying to navigate arguably some pretty narrow streets there. In fact, the Los Angeles fire chief says resources and services are stretched thin.
With the Pacific Palisades fire, we know that it continues to demand a significant amount of resources and attention. A second major brush fire, now referred to as the Hearst fire, has erupted in the Sylmar area of Los Angeles. Now, together, these fires are stretching the capacity of emergency services to their maximum limits. The Los Angeles City Fire Department is battling these 2 major fires while also maintaining, I want to focus on this as well, 911 services for the city's approximate 4 million residents. Now, despite the severity of the conditions, our department remains fully committed to safeguarding lives and property.
Hey, you're not going to be able to put that out.
Wow, you're not going to be able to put that out. That's a real-life moment of humanity playing out there. Someone risking their life to try to save their home, and then a neighbor risking their life to say, look, you can't do it. It's too late. Heed the warnings. Leave your home and get out. And then, of course, the terrifying moment that intense winds sent those flames turning back on him. These are just touchstones to human stories in the midst of flames. Look at this. Nearly 100 people of the Pasadena Senior Center evacuated in the night, some of them in wheelchairs, some as old as 102. So let's go live to CBS News, Elise Preston in Malibu. Elise, we can hear the winds whipping there. We hope you are safe and your crews are safe. We're just now hearing the death toll of the Eaton fire and getting that preliminary count of the structures burned. Tell us about the personal stories that you are hearing where you are.
Well, Reed, thank you for having us. We are trying our best to stay safe. As you mentioned, you can hear the wind. It is incredibly strong. Just to give you what people are kind of dealing with, I'm hanging on to a pole right now as we stand here and talk to you. But right where we are, we're on the Pacific Coast Highway, and this is exactly the moment what you were talking about. Right down this stretch of road. We went down there for a little bit. It was too dangerous for us to stay, but we just saw a continuous stream of homes that were burned to the ground, flames that were still going, and firefighters are back there trying to get them out. As you mentioned, the wind that you can hear, it is carrying these embers so quickly. And so they're spending a lot of time just trying to get out what they can because they don't want those embers, those flames to pick up and spread. Already 1,000 structures have been destroyed. This fire is just devastating. And we're hearing firefighters, we're hearing sheriff's deputies, police turn people around right here at this intersection right off the Pacific Coast Highway. Right in front of us, there are dozens of cars of people who have fled their homes, and this is really where they're going. I was just walking down the roadway not too long ago. People were crying in their cars. People were praying. Just a lot of catastrophic things that people are dealing with. You know, they had moments. We know that these winds were coming, but they moved so quickly, these flames, and so people had to just leave. They had to abandon their homes. And it's not just structures. These are homes that they've spent their entire lives to build. They have memories in these homes. And so it is a very devastating thing for these families that have been here. And to see that destruction right down that roadway is just heartbreaking, Reed.
Elise, and we want to acknowledge for our viewers, there's about an 8-second delay between where I am and where Elise is. So just be patient with us viewers as we talk back and forth with Elise. You're watching continuing coverage here on CBS News 24/7 of that Southern California wildfire emergency. We want to let our viewers know we expect at any minute President Joe Biden is going to be in Santa Monica on a tarmac with something to say to the people of California and the people of the nation. Elise, what are people doing by way of helping each other? We know in times like these, it really takes community to get through this. And you're hearing stories of firefighters and neighbors helping neighbors. Paint a picture of the other big story, and that is the fact that there are people helping each other.
Yeah. There are a lot of people helping. There have been a lot of resources that have poured out just in the last 12 hours or so. And keep in mind, there are quite a few wildfires that are burning in the Southern California area. So it's not just this Malibu section that we are in right now. Right down the roadway, I met a man who was kind of hanging out. He said that his home is safe. He feels safe as far as how the winds are directing, and he has not been told that he needs to evacuate. He's staying in his home right now, trying to see if anyone else just needs a place to stay. Excuse me, this winds and this ash. He's staying in his home, hoping to open it up for people who have been forced to flee their homes. So you're seeing a lot of that humanity. You're seeing people offer up water. You're seeing people just pray for one another and just say, how are you doing? And I think that's maybe like a small question, but it probably means a lot, especially in a time like this. This is just total devastation. I've never seen anything like it. People are telling us that they've never seen anything like it. People who have been in California, you know, they are prepared for some winds to kind of kick in at some points in the season. They're saying that they've never seen anything like this. These winds are incredibly strong. Some of the winds topped out at about 100 miles per hour overnight, and these winds are still continuing. There are some signs. We've seen signs like big street signs just ripped off from the poles, and they're kind of going down the highway. So people are also, you know, fearful of these flying objects. I've covered hurricanes. I've lived in a hurricane belt. That's how I would liken these winds. But instead of carrying water, they are spreading flames. They are spreading embers. And if you just see the devastation, you know, we're showing some video for our viewers, but up close, it truly is heartbreaking to know that people have lost everything. And, you know, some lives have been lost here in Southern California. We know of at least 2 confirmed fatalities. But it's just so hard to think about these families who have been forced to flee. Some people, out of fear, abandoned their vehicles and kept going. You know, they were trying to drive out, and they still, they didn't even make it out by way of vehicles, but they just fled on foot. It's just truly heartbreaking to see what these families are going through.
And Elise, we can see the force of those winds quite literally knocking you off of your balance there. We are hoping and praying that all of the emergency efforts to get people evacuated pays off big time. Our thoughts and prayers with everybody. Listen, we also know that CBS News teams are teams. We want to also say thank you to your photographers, your editors, your crews that are out there putting themselves in harm's way. Please let them know we're grateful to them. Information is power, and you have helped to empower the people of this nation to know how we can engage in helping the people of Southern California. Thank you so much. Please be safe. Okay, so as we talk about the better angels and people helping people, we also know that there is a counterpoint to that, and sometimes it can be like this. You're seeing here on Truth Social, which is the social media platform of the President-elect Donald Trump. He is responding to all this by placing blame on the California governor, Gavin Newsom, for not signing a water restoration declaration. So he says this: Now the ultimate price is being paid. He says he will demand that this incompetent governor, and these are the words of President-elect Donald Trump, allow beautiful, clean, fresh water to flow into California. He is to blame for this, close quote. So with that, let's bring in CBS News political correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns, who is live in West Palm Beach, Florida. Has the president-elect also had anything to say about the people who are on the run right now by the thousands in Southern California who probably don't care about politics right now, who just want to know how to get out safely and with their lives?
That's right. In situations like these, of course, politics is probably the last thing that people are thinking about. And I should just say that we're all thinking about those affected by these fires in Southern California. We've all been watching in just horror at what is happening. So glad our teams there are safe and thinking the best for everyone on the ground. What we heard from the president-elect is that Truth Social post. And in it, it kind of refers to this long-standing feud that Trump has had with Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. They obviously have shared a lot of bitter words back and forth in terms of politics, but this goes to a very specific water-related policy that Trump has been railing against Newsom for, and did so several times over the campaign, on the campaign trail. I was with him in Los Angeles a few months ago when he went after Newsom, essentially Newsom signing an order kind of related to an environmental order affecting water flows from north to south. Trump said when he was president, he signed a executive order opening up some of those flows. So they have gone back and forth over this. But also on the campaign trail, Donald Trump threatened to withhold federal funds for the state of California if Newsom didn't reverse course, essentially, on that water policy. So this has been a long-standing issue that the former president-elect now, has had with the governor. But this comes, of course, as California, Southern California, is reeling from these fires and trying to figure out how to actually put them out. So, of course, politics is the last thing these people are thinking about. And usually in times of crisis, politicians aren't pointing fingers. They are trying to figure out solutions for the people on the ground. But we have seen this over the course of Trump's presidency, and nothing, at least according to that social media post, is likely to change in terms of the way in which he doesn't leave politics to the side and injects it even in times of crisis.
So far, we are not aware of any official response from California Governor Gavin Newsom. But Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you so much for adding that to the conversation. It is also a picture of these United States and the man who has been elected to be sworn in as our next leader. Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you so much. So let's go live to CBS News correspondent Jonathan Vigliotti. He's in downtown Pacific Palisades. Jonathan.
We just arrived here in what is left of downtown Pacific Palisades, and I am overwhelmed by the scale of loss. And I'm not alone. I've been looking at the faces of firefighters here. They look like they're attending a wake. And there is so much destruction. Aside from the mall, which is still standing, most of the businesses here have been destroyed. The homes down in the neighborhoods here completely gone. I spoke with one person. He estimates thousands of homes destroyed. That aligns with what we've been seeing. You can see and hear the wind here in the trees, the howling sound, easily 100 miles per hour gusts at times. That's what fueled this fire. The fire's still burning. You've got fire crews throughout the area trying to put out flames as this wind continues. Thousands of people under a mandatory evacuation. Many people are going to return to homes that were lost, and even more important, their community completely gone.
Jonathan Vigliotti, whose social media is just full of reports from all night long. He's had a very long night. We thank him for filing that report for us. As we talk about those moments of humanity, we want to show you, this is out of the Palisades neighborhood. A photographer evacuating herself and then saw a woman running on foot. Listen to this moment.
Get in the car. Tell her to get in the car. Get in the car in the back. Get over. Come on.
So better angels, people helping people, and an example of what is best about America, somebody running for their own life, stopping to put somebody in their car. That was a woman who fled her house and had no other option but to go running for her own life in the street. That photographer stopping down in her own escape and said, "Get in the car." Well, President Joe Biden is still in Southern California right now. He is not leaving You know, yesterday he was supposed to be at certain appointments here in California, but those all got sidelined. He issued a statement saying in part that he's offered federal assistance and that FEMA approved firefighting cost reimbursements to California to sort of help out. We also learned the president spoke with California Governor Gavin Newsom, who is at this hour under attack by the president-elect on social media. He spoke to Newsom by phone to receive the latest update from a state perspective here on the wildfires. The president will now head to Santa Monica Fire Station. He's going to be offering a national briefing on these raging fires. And as soon as we see it, you'll see it right here on CBS News 24/7. Okay, so I say this when we cover breaking news all the time. Information is power, and in many cases, it can be life-saving. I have now heard from two friends who have family members who are packing and getting ready to run from neighborhoods they didn't think they would have to evacuate. They're watching you right now to know where these winds are going to go and what's behind the wind.
You know, this is one of those one-in-a-decade events where we see winds this strong at this time of the year, too, with conditions that are just so dry and brittle down there. Mind you, areas like Los Angeles, they haven't seen rain since last May. And when you take a look at those rainfall totals, it was closer to around 1/4 of an inch. So it's been dry, and it takes these wind events to really allow for these conditions to happen. So we're going to dive over into California real fast. On the map, I want to show you what's happening right now. The National Weather Service did an amazing job at issuing red flag warnings throughout this area and alerting them of what was to come. You see all that pink on the screen? That's that red flag warning that they issued, as well as plenty of wind alerts widespread throughout California. And this right here is showing that elevated fire risk. And I want to zoom out real fast and show you what's happening for us. It's areas like the Santa Clarita Mountains that have been dealing with some of the worst of these conditions. Here's what happens when you're talking about the Santa Ana winds in California. For those who are not familiar with Southern California, they get these things. It's called the Santa Ana winds. It's when they move in from the inland areas and push offshore. And it moves from higher to lower elevated areas too. So it's dry, condensed air that's pushing offshore. Just a great ingredient when it comes to these fire weather conditions. And they're usually driven from this area of high pressure parked offshore, or any area of high pressure. But when it's sandwiched between this system right here, just south of California, an area of low pressure, it creates a very strong pressure gradient. It's like two gears grinding against each other. And in the middle of that, which is what we're seeing right now, it's the Los Angeles area. And we talked about it already. They've been dealing with such dry conditions. So those are two other ingredients that get put together. And that's the reason why the National Weather Service has issued that red flag warning. And we've seen wind gusts anywhere up to around 99 miles per hour so far. This is stronger than hurricane force winds, but these wind gusts, these are very important to note because that's what allows for these fires to blow up in size as fast as they have been. And that's the case widespread throughout the hills in Los Angeles. What's happening now is those winds continue to push offshore into the evening hours tonight. They will die down later tonight, but then what's happening is it's going to get lighter, and that's going to allow for that surface smoke to kind of whip right back into Los Angeles, causing air quality alerts widespread throughout these areas. And so we're going to continue to monitor this closely. The winds are still strong right now as those firefighters are on the ground right now, and the aircraft are trying to get up to help. But the winds are the biggest reason why we're seeing them blow up in such large size.
And so fast. 2 dead in the Eaton fire. And Jess, we want to show our viewers this video. We have camera crews all throughout where the fire is burning in real time. This is the video from one of our crews. This is live right now, driving through a neighborhood. Now, I've covered wildfires many times in my career, and embers can land on one house and skip another house. On the right, you see a house that is literally in real time burning down and looks like a skeleton there. On the left, a house completely gone. But just a few car lengths before that, other houses still stood. It is ominous. It is scary to see that fire can so quickly jump on something as simple as a spark, a burning leaf, a piece of bark that catches wind, land on top of somebody's roof, and then just explode in a powder keg. This is what it looks like in the Eaton fire. And as you can see now, turning left, it is block after block after block. You see the electrical lines right there. They are shut off. And that means that hundreds of thousands of people in Southern California don't even have electricity. That's why those go bags are often spoken about with such importance, to have batteries for your phones so that you can get the updates on your phones. Now you're starting to see that shot break up just a little bit there. That's because in some areas those phone signals are hard to get out. So once again, our hearts are with the people of Southern California there, the firefighters, the first responders, and the people who are helping each other get out. Let's go live right now to our partners at CBS News Los Angeles. This is how they are telling the story. Looks like from PCH and Rambla Vista right now.
Have been all morning long. Our hearts go out to you, our entire team. Sparkle and I have been witnessing everything that has happened. And again, I just want to show you the juxtaposition here. We are looking at what should be a beautiful view, a beautiful beach community with the waves crashing. And that should be what we're hearing at this time. Just a serene, amazing experience. And right now, it's quite the opposite. This quietness, the calm before the storm, again, just, almost makes it more worrisome because we know the winds are here. We know they die down and they ramp back up and the embers go from one structure to the other to the other. There's no telling how many miles they're going to travel and how many buildings and homes and livelihoods they're going to burn to the ground. And we're talking about communities that are on fire, communities that are hurting. And we are doing our best to, of course, stay safe and keep you all informed during this very difficult and heartbreaking time. Guys?
Thank you so much, Luz Delia. And we know it is hard to look at this devastation and keep your composure and to give us the information. And when you see those, oceanfront homes, you don't even think that the fire is going to get to those homes on the other side.
Because you have PCH, you think to yourself, okay, PCH, a big chunk of defensible space. And then on the other side, you have the water. So, I would be interested to see. I would bet that a lot of those homes weren't even considered high fire danger as far as insurance goes. And now to see that, and we heard that from Joy, too, saying this neighborhood that's up in flames right now isn't even close to the hillside. So that's why what you were saying is so important. Even if you feel like I don't live in a fire zone, if you are anywhere near a warning, it's better to just go to a friend's house, wait it out, get your pets, especially if you have cats and dogs. If they get scared, it can be hard to get them out, or an elderly family member. And Luz Delia, you've been doing just such a great job out there, and we know the conditions are just so tough.
Yeah, so thank you for bringing us the information. Be sure to stay safe. Think about yourself also while you're out there and not just everyone else. We'll be checking back in with you in just a little bit. Now, the relentless winds continue to blow, elevating the fire risk to dangerous levels, and those powerful gusts are really making the firefight extremely difficult. This windstorm can be life-threatening, and it's proven to be highly destructive. For more on the timeline of when the winds will ease up, let's go to our meteorologist, Alex Viston, for your next weather forecast. Alex.
And Amy, Christine, that is the big question, is when will these winds let up? And you saw that fire jump over PCH onto the side of the ocean. These are these offshore winds, the winds blowing inland.
You are watching continuing coverage on CBS News 24/7, dipping into our partners at CBS Los Angeles as that wildfire rages in many parts of LA County. We're going to continue watching that story as it plays out. 2 people dead. But for now, we're going to move on to some more headlines for our national audience. We can talk about this. Major developments in President-elect Donald Trump's legal battles this week, including this. Mr. Trump is now asking the U.S. Supreme Court to help delay sentencing in his New York hush money case. You'll remember, Trump was found guilty of 34 felony counts for falsifying business records last summer. So in that emergency petition filing, his team asked the court to, quote, and we just got this, correct the unjust actions by New York courts and stop the unlawful sentencing in the DA's witch hunt. All of that back and forth playing out since July 11th, when sentencing was first scheduled to take place. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor is giving Manhattan prosecutors until tomorrow to respond. We will be watching it. When we see it, you'll see it. Investigators also uncovering new details about the Tesla Cybertruck, and you see it there, that blew up on camera outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Police say the attacker used generative artificial intelligence to plan that attack. Investigators say they sifted through the attacker's history on the AI app ChatGPT, and they found sources and searches related to explosives, ammunition, and fireworks. Much more to come on this story as well. Let's jump our map now to New Orleans, where city council officials meeting right now to share updates on the investigation into the terror attack that unfolded on Bourbon Street last week. The major question on the agenda today, why those metal bollards were not in place ahead of this event. City officials also addressed the security measures in place for the upcoming Super Bowl. We're going to bring you any headlines that come out of that news conference as soon as we see it. Still many, many questions here of what happened that took so many lives there in New Orleans. You know, many people in Richmond, Virginia are having to go even longer without water out of their taps. The city there says an electrical failure has delayed service even further. This comes 2 days after a winter storm just knocked out the city's water treatment plant. The city says some service is expected to be restored by the end of the day, but a lot of people very cold and without water because of this. You see all of those community centers that people are being told to go to just so that they can get some water. A live look now at the U.S. Capitol Rotunda, where President Jimmy Carter's body lies in state. And you can see there, this is a picture of American history. Down there on the ground, closer to his casket, mourners continue to file through. Now, before they get into that very warm building, many of them waited out in the bitter cold to say one last goodbye to our nation's 39th president. Jimmy Carter's casket will stay there through tomorrow morning until his official state funeral at the Washington National Cathedral. All living presidents are expected to attend. President Joe Biden, Carter's close friend of nearly 50 years, is expected to deliver the eulogy, but we do understand President Joe Biden is still in the state of California. Air Force One parked on a tarmac right now as Santa Ana winds continue to drive wildfires, burning down thousands of structures and now taking 2 lives. We will watch to see what the future of President Biden is relative to being able to get to Washington to speak at that funeral. By the way, after the ceremony in Washington, President Carter will return to Plains, Georgia for a private service at a Baptist church, his church, Maranatha Baptist Church, and he'll be buried there in Plains, which is the same town where he was born 100 years ago, lived a life of service until his last day. When we come back, we will continue to follow what is happening in Southern California. A tragedy playing out that will be known for generations as one of the worst wildfires ever to hit the state of California. Stay with CBS News 24/7. We continue watching for breaking news out of Southern California and elsewhere on our monitors. I'm Reed Cowan with CBS News 24/7. We are watching just as you are in real time this tragedy playing out in Southern California. This video to our feeds and to our many monitors carrying the story of a state of emergency in California. Multiple wildfires raging out of control. They are driven by winds unlike we have seen in recent months or years. We just learned that the fire is deadly. The death toll is at 2. It is expected to climb in the coming hours. Firefighters just needing to get into the homes to see who remains. It is so bad right now in Southern California. We don't really have a full count of the homes destroyed. But at this hour, as we look at this video and you see that garage just gutted and hollowed out, we know that the number stands at more than 1,000 structures. So we don't know how many of those are businesses, how many of those are homes, but every one of those rooftops belongs to somebody, and the many somebodies out there are running. We're talking about thousands of people forced to leave in the night and then well into today, running into the streets with just the clothing on their back. Now, our CBS crews are in the thick of all of this. In some cases, they are just feet away from the firefighters. Look at this video from the Palisades fire. That's just south of Malibu. You can see on the left the fire just racing up a hillside, but then the wind turns. No more up the hillside. It is now going right towards that home. See that fire just veering right there? You're also seeing this. This is a picture of what it's like to try to get out. That is one of the main thoroughfares to try to get out of that area. A lot of very thin roads. When people are running, they are literally looking to their left and to their right, seeing fire coming up over the hill. The Palisades fire is just one of 4 wildfires raging in Los Angeles County. So let's go to this map right now and give you an idea of what they are dealing with. This sort of gives you a regional perspective. 70,000 people evacuated. So how do you even begin to picture that in your mind? So think about it this way. The average number of seats in your average university football stadium, about 30,000. So get the picture of 30,000 seats on football Saturday or Sunday on your mind. Double that. Add 10,000 more seats. That's the number of people who are running in California from their homes at this very moment. In fact, that creates a sense of urgency block by block, and we got a little bit of that on camera. Watch. So children in cars with their parents and their family members hearing those sounds, and that is the sound right now where usually you would just hear gentle ocean waves. That's video in the Pacific Palisades area. It shows that line of people just gridlocked in their cars trying to get out. Those fires combined, by the way, have burned more than 5,000 acres. And as we see home after home after home burn, we can tell you firefighters are giving it hell, but zero containment so far. More than 150,000 homes are without electricity, just shutting off the electricity. Major roads and highways also shutting down, including parts of the PCH or the Pacific Coast Highway. Our team's on the scene getting this update from LA Fire. Let's listen into that.
But deputies continue to be on patrol throughout the road closure areas to ensure evacuation areas remain closed to the public. All schools in the Pasadena Unified School District are closed. There is a road closure at Altanina Drive from Allen to New York Drive. For those in need of shelter, please head to the Pasadena Convention Center. Evacuations are in effect, continuously in effect for the city of Calabasas, the city of Malibu, Los Angeles City, Pacific Palisades, and unincorporated area of Los Angeles County and Topanga Canyon. Evacuation orders are approximately 37,000 residents under evacuation orders and approximately 15,000 structures at risk. Again, that's specifically for the Palisades fire.
So many people glued to television, listening to radio, and seeing streaming broadcasts to know where to go moment to moment. CBS News correspondent Danya Backus is a part of that reporting corps, getting people the information they need so they can get out. This is her report from the Palisades fire.
Fire officials say there are no reported fatalities from the Palisades fire that is burning where I am, but a high number of injuries to people who did not evacuate. Unfortunately, 2 people were killed in the Eaton fire.
Oh, wow, the whole thing just went down. The whole house just collapsed.
The images are apocalyptic. What started as a brush fire ballooned into the Palisades fire. It's one of 3 wind-fueled fires in the area. Firefighters are picking their battles with parts of the Pacific Palisades beyond saving.
Obviously, this one here is a total loss, so they're trying to move ahead and skip ahead, get in front of the fire, and keep it from going from one building onto the next.
Firefighters are also battling fatigue and finding some hydrants without water. The danger is ever present. One man using a hose to douse flames almost got burned in the process.
Good?
Tens of thousands have had to evacuate, and Tuesday some residents fled in such a hurry. Some abandoned their cars in the gridlock.
There's a lot of fire right there. That's why the people coming. We leave the car.
It's hard to see, hard to breathe, and hard for firefighters to contain, as seen by this home that's completely engulfed by flames. Worst of all, the wind.
Okay, the wind's starting to pick up again, so it's going to get a little gusty, and the smoke's going to start coming through one more time.
Hurricane-force winds are also fueling the Eaton fire northeast of Los Angeles.
You can imagine trying to fight fire in those winds. It is really incredibly challenging and volatile and unpredictable.
Firefighters are hoping for even the slightest relief.
Those winds will die down somewhat as we head into this afternoon and into this evening, but we're still seeing that offshore flow.
Crews hope to minimize further damage in this trifecta of dangerous fires.
Many celebrities call Pacific Palisades home, like Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg, and Ben Affleck. The Los Angeles Unified School District has temporarily relocated students from Palisades campuses. Danya Backus, CBS News, Los Angeles. Now back to you.
So not far from where Danya filed that report is Pacific Palisades, and this right here is a view of destruction left behind. You can see on the right what used to be a very popular mall and eating area. It's gone. In fact, if you didn't know that area, you would just think that this was any other building. But this is where people just weeks ago celebrated the holidays. That's the only building left standing, if you can even call it left standing. In many cases, businesses adjacent, homes adjacent, apartments adjacent nearby, they have all been leveled. So these are the real situations. People seeing Home after home, business after business burned to the ground. And bringing Jess in right now, you know that firefighters also are watching the science of this fire, and so are you.
It's interesting when you're taking a look at the winds and the conditions that Southern California is currently under.
Right.
They have been dealing with dry conditions throughout most of these winter months. And so you get a strong wind event like this with just the perfect amount of high pressure and low pressure sandwiching together, creating this strong pressure gradient along those mountains. That's the Santa Ana winds we're talking about, but this is significant. I mean, 99-mile-per-hour winds were reported just last night in the overnight hours. Mind you, those community members, they had doctor's appointments today. They had to take their dogs to the vet. You're thinking about their day-to-day lives and how impactful this is for them at such a short time, and it's all driven by the winds. So let's talk about this a little bit further. Let's talk about the reason why these winds are as strong as they are. This area of low pressure parked just to the south of California is the southern portion of this pressure gradient. Now you're talking about high pressure offshore, and that's what's delivering these strong winds. They're kind of acting like gears moving against each other all throughout Southern California as the center of it. We also talk about dry conditions. It was last May that areas like Los Angeles received at least 1/4 inch of rain, but since then it's been very, very dry. So you look at these brush fires that just pop up real fast, and then you take a look at the winds that we're talking about. Wind gusts anywhere up to around 80, 90, close to 100-mile-per-hour winds reported just in those hills where that dry brush is at. That's the big reason why these fires are popping up as fast as they are and growing in size as fast as they are too. Now, another thing to keep in mind as well, I'm a part of the California National Guard, and we're kind of gearing up and getting ready to send aircraft down there. Aircraft have limitations when it comes to winds too, and certain aircraft can't get to these fires due to how strong those winds are. The good news is, though, those winds are starting to die down as we head into the evening hours tonight. And that's going to help when it comes to battling the fire. What it's not going to be convenient for, though, is the direction of the winds has actually allowed for most of that smoke to push offshore. As the winds die down, that smoke's going to get pushed right back into the Los Angeles basin, and that's going to continue to circulate through these communities, allowing for air quality alerts to pop up widespread throughout Southern California. So there's a lot when it comes to these fires, and we've been talking about them all throughout these winter months. I mean, since November into December, we had the mountain fire just near Malibu with very similar conditions to this. It's important to note that these community members are struggling, and we need to help any way we can. We'll have more on this coming up in a bit, but for now, Reed, I'm going to send it back over to you.
All right, thank you so much. President Biden is still in Southern California right now. He's not leaving because he was supposed to be gone yesterday, wheels up to go back and deliver the eulogy for former President Jimmy Carter, but he is now in California, not wheels up. He issued a statement talking about the fires, in part saying that he's offered federal assistance and that FEMA is going to approve firefighting cost reimbursements to the state of California. We also learned from this statement that the president has spoken with California Governor Gavin Newsom to try to receive the very latest updates on the wildfire burning all across Los Angeles County. We do know that the president will head to Santa Monica Fire Station. He is going to be providing a national briefing on these raging fires and the federal government's commitment to help out the people of California. We understand that that will be happening at 2 p.m. Eastern time. As soon as we see it, you'll see it right here on CBS News 24/7. So our partners at CBS News Los Angeles working around the clock. They are with the crews on the fire lines right now. So let's go to some of their reporting and just see what they're seeing at the ground level.
Are coming back to this morning. So, Amy, this is a very tough and a very, very sad situation. And I will say the winds are starting to pick back up again, and it's just, I don't know what's next for them. And that's what makes this really sad.
Amanda, hearing Jerry's story and so many other stories that are sadly so similar, and so many people thinking that their homes were safe last night, that they weren't in the foothills, that they weren't in what is typically considered a fire-prone area, right next to the water's edge, and yet their fires were burned.
I think a lot of them thought they'd be back in their homes this morning. It would be another false alarm like many of us have dealt with over time. And, you know, Amanda, as you know, a lot of times when we cover these fires, we all descend on the same street because there's just one or two streets that have been impacted. But what I find so alarming with this is that there is no shortage of streets to go through, whether it's in Palisades or Pasadena or Altadena. There are just so many homes destroyed. destroyed. And Jerry, our heart just goes out to him. You can just see the pain on his face. You know, it's not just things to people, it's their memories. And it's a lot of work to go through, even just the insurance claims. It's going to be a lot of work for people, especially if they're senior citizens or, you know, they have jobs and they have things that they need to do to continue to make money.
Yes, exactly. That's where Jerry went to retire. And the fact that is gone is just really tough to hear. All right, Amanda, thank you for bringing us really difficult stories to share.
Yeah.
So thank you. We want to check back in with our Joy Benedict, who's following the Eaton fire in Altadena. Joy, what are you seeing now?
I mean, I see a lot of devastation, and unfortunately, it's what we have seen all morning and all night. And like Amanda was talking about, there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. Usually when we see a fire coming, it'll take out a street, and then a next street, and then a next street. And that's not what we're seeing because of these strong winds. We're seeing a couple of homes on one street and a couple of homes on another block. And then, of course, they all merge together. But look around here behind me. We are right now on El Sereno and Figueroa. We are just west of Fair Oaks. You see we have a couple of homes burning there, and then right next to it, to the right, 2 homes that have not caught fire yet, and I'm sure those homeowners are hoping that it doesn't. But then if you look across the street, and we just got a really big dark plume of smoke because of something that's burning over there on the other side of Figueroa on the north side, but really all of these homes over to the right-hand side are also on fire. Do you live around here, sir? Okay. And what we're seeing is a lot of people coming and trying to take a look. That is not a smart decision. And look how this street is impassable. So you cannot drive down this road as you're looking right here because of these power lines that are right in front of you. So it's important. This is why you should not be driving down this roadway. Barry's moving very quickly right now. But if you look over to the left-hand side, what you're going to see is just more homes that are simply on fire. And there was one over here on the corner that was still standing just 5 minutes ago, but unfortunately it looks like it has also caught fire over here on the corner as we are walking towards what is Fair Oaks Avenue, a business district here in this community. And that's where you can also see the businesses that have burned in what is a very populated area. But certainly this is a fire that's been burning for some time. We will continue to be here in as many neighborhoods as we can to give you a look to see of exactly what's going on. But certainly just a lot of devastation, guys.
All right, Joy, please be careful out there. Those power lines down. I know that you're thinking there is no power out there, but please be careful. Stay close to your photographer and you know, we know you want to share the stories, but please, safety first while you're out there.
And we want to check in now with Jasmine Veal back in Pasadena. She mentioned that homeowner was trying to get to her chickens and some ducks. She had to leave her home, and it appears that Jasmine has found her home, and they're trying to save those animals.
Yeah. You guys, we're here with just, I think, another photographer or neighbor. We're just trying to save some chickens in the backyard from the lady who was sobbing outside, because we know the home right next to this is on fire, and she was very concerned. She has ducks back here. She has some other pets, and so right now we're just at the chicken coop. We have the camera on the ground because we're grabbing the last of the chickens, putting them into a big bin, a trash bin, and carrying them out to her waiting SUV. And this is the situation. It is so still hectic. I cannot believe when I left and went to bed last night trying to get a few hours of sleep to wake up to home still on fire, gusty wind conditions, the smoke and the embers are still flying around Altadena Drive. And homes on either side of the street here. We're right near, I'm trying to think of the cross street. It was Mariposa, and we're not far from Lake. So we're a few blocks east of Lake, which I know, talking to some of the homeowners here who are returning to the devastation, that they've said some churches have burned up, some businesses that have been here for years. One man, he had just sold his home. It was in escrow. That is now gone, burned to the ground. He had lived there 40 years. My photographer, John, has grabbed the last of the chickens here. So it's just one thing we can do. This lady was just crumpled up on the ground. Doesn't know if her house will, because there's no firefighters. Hey, John, the tree's on fire, so we're going to get out of here pretty quickly. She doesn't know if her home will be here tomorrow because there are no firefighters on the street. I saw one engine fly past. She tried to wave them down, and they just had to get to the next call. And the wind, wow, it's gusting again. A huge gust just came through. I don't know if you guys can hear it at times, and then it just billows up this black smoke. So some of the trees over here, I'm going to have John grab the camera if you bear with me. He just got one last chicken.
That's the last one.
Okay.
Last one.
And he's going to pick up the camera and show you guys what we're talking about here.
That
when I say the
person
home
there
next
is our photographer, John Schreiber, who is in what appears to be, you know, like a firefighter outfit. And that is not a firefighter. That is John Schreiber, one of our photographers, who is helping this woman because there are no firefighters in the area. Okay.
Yeah, we have this protective gear on for a reason. We are trained. We have our masks on. He has an
We're having some trouble here, but Jasmine and her photographer, John Schreiber, have been helping this woman who you could hear her wailing. It was just so sad because she knew her chickens and her ducks were there, but Jasmine and her photographer have gone in and helped rescue those chickens. We could see them. I believe they got the last one, John was saying, that last chicken. So we certainly appreciate it. And we all remember you helping people rescue horses when there was another fire.
Back in 2018 or 19.
Is that the Woolsey or Thomas fire?
Sun Valley, Woolsey.
Okay.
And you know, in this case, some people might be like, oh, chickens, but they're her pets.
Exactly.
And also when you're faced with thinking that you might lose your entire home, your livelihood, you're going to cling on to anything you can get. And that's a little piece of home that Jasmine and John are able to deliver to this woman who we heard her wailing. And it just really makes you catch your breath.
It really does.
To hear something like that. We want to go now to KCAL News reporter Rena Nakano. She is live in Malibu.
Yeah, she's on PCH and Temescal Canyon Road. Rena, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. This is usually just a parking lot for people to enjoy the beach. Unfortunately, right now, it's kind of a staging area for some of the media as well as some people who just want to get out of here. Right behind, you see the ocean, but behind me, this is the Tahitian Village terrace, terrace entrance, and you could see that the neighborhood has been devastated. As you see, you could pan up and see how quickly the black smoke is moving. Of course, right above that, you see beautiful blue sky, but unfortunately, right now, the situation is just darkness coming out of the neighborhood. We did drive through Sunset Boulevard before getting here. Unfortunately, many parts of that neighborhood completely dead. Seeing a lot of police officers escorting people out of the neighborhoods, firefighters into the neighborhoods. We even saw a crew of inmate fire crews that just arrived in this area to give their assistance to fire crews from all over the place. I mean, we even just saw somebody from San Bernardino County and Santa Barbara who helped out with the fire extinguishing efforts. But what I do want to tell you is that pretty soon my photographer Assad escorted in off of Temescal Canyon Road to go up to Palisades Charter High School. We are going to take a quick look to see the devastation, if any, at the school. Hopefully, we'll see a little bit of homes in that area as well as the school. We want to bring it on how everything is going over there, but we hope to bring you that as soon as possible. But again, we will be escorted into that area, which is kind of a no-go zone right now, but we will bring you more information as we get that. We'll send it back to you.
Yeah, and Rena, I've been getting a lot of text messages from parents who have kids who are in that school district, and they all want to know where are their kids going to go to school.
You're watching CBS News 24/7, depending on the partnership that we have with CBS News Los Angeles, delivering information moment by moment to their thousands of viewers who are out of their home and on the run down there in Southern California. Just want to give you sort of an idea and some context about the force of this fire. When we went on air, the Eaton fire between 2,000 and 3,000 acres, it has exploded. It is now, in just an hour, 90 minutes, up to 10,000 acres. And you saw the wind causing our reporters to literally have to steady themselves. That's the strength of the wind. That wind is pushing the fire, and it is devastating. The Eaton fire has now claimed 2 lives. We're going to go back to that in just a minute. But we also have some headlines we know that are important to the nation that we want to get to, some major developments In President-elect Donald Trump's legal battles, including this development, the president-elect is now asking the U.S. Supreme Court to help delay the sentencing in his New York hush money case. Now, remember, Donald Trump was found guilty of 34 felony counts for falsifying business records last summer. In an emergency petition filing, his team asked the court to, quote, correct the unjust actions by New York courts and stop the unlawful sentencing and the DA's witch hunt. This is from Stephen Chung, Trump's campaign spokesperson. All of that back and forth playing out since July 11th, when sentencing was first scheduled to take place. So here's what's happening now. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor is giving Manhattan prosecutors until tomorrow to respond to that request that is now kicked up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Investigators uncovering new details about that explosion outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Police say the attacker there used generative artificial intelligence in planning that attack. So investigators now have done a scrub of all of his electronic comings and goings, and they found he had a history on the AI app ChatGPT. They found searches related to explosives and ammunitions and fireworks in planning that. Let's also talk to another New Year's Day tragedy. Jumping our map to New Orleans now. City council officials are meeting at this very hour to shape the updates on the investigation into that terror attack that unfolded on Bourbon Street last week that killed so many, injured so many. The major question on today's agenda, why those metal bollards were not in place ahead of New Year's Eve. City officials also addressed the security measures in place for the upcoming Super Bowl. Keep in mind, tens of thousands of people will be in New Orleans for the Super Bowl. The people of New Orleans say they are New Orleans strong. They will not let fear stop them from going forward and having their city showcased on national TV, but they are also asking the tough questions about those bollards. They would like them in place to prevent this from ever happening again. We also want to let our viewers know that at any moment we expect President Joe Biden to be speaking from the tarmac there at Santa Monica Airport. He will be giving an update on what he has been told from Governor Gavin Newsom. Now, we also have this story that's coming up. A lot of residents in Richmond, Virginia are having to go longer without water coming from their taps in the wake of winter storms. The city says an electrical failure has delayed service even further. This comes just 2 days after that winter storm just knocked out the city's water treatment plant. So they say some service is expected to be restored, but until then, people are lining up at community centers just to get bottles of water to get by. Let's go live to our nation's capital right now. This is a live video feed coming to us from the Capitol Rotunda right now, where former President Jimmy Carter lies in state. You can see crowds of people there filing through, and in many cases, they are speaking to Carter's own family that are standing by. The people there, you can see them in coats. That's because when they came in to express the condolences, to put their hands on the hands of the grieving, they had to stand out in bitter cold to say one last goodbye to the 39th Commander-in-Chief. By the way, President Carter's casket will stay there through tomorrow morning until his official state funeral at the Washington National Cathedral. All living presidents are expected to attend, including Joe Biden, Carter's friend of nearly 50 years, to deliver that eulogy. We leave you right now with a live picture out of Santa Monica, where we understand President Joe Biden is going to update the nation on the tragedy playing out with fires in Southern California.